Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Getting there. It's hard.
I can imagine. I've been thinking of you and your husband.
Yeah, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, we're just rushing around like idiots. Still caught up in my... yeah, busy. Are you the first one? Are you the first?
No, I don't think so. I think there's Krishna Das and there's two others as well.
Right. I'm going to rush around a bit and I'll catch up with you. I'll be listening in, but I've got a few things I need to do.
That's fine.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare. So how many we got?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Bol. Okay, so sorry I'm late. I just had another meeting. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, so last week we were speaking about Varahadev. So we'll not do questions and answers on that. We'll just leave that up to you to be attentive while we're going through. But take notes, and then we learn from the past times. So we'll just basically this is a conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. Right at the beginning, Shaunaka Rishi is asking Sutta Goswami all the questions, and he's relating to a conversation between Sukadeva Goswami, who's relating to a conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. So that's how it is. So this conversation is between Maitreya and Vidura. And they start talking about creation, Sarga, initial creation by Lord, both Karanadakashai Vishnu, Govardakashai Vishnu, and now Shiradakashai Vishnu. But the secondary creation, Visharga, is by Lord Brahma, creating all the living entities. We get up to the point, it was mentioned that Varahadev appeared and killed Hiranyaksha. And so that tweaked the attention of, Shaunaka Rishi. He said, wait a minute, I want to hear, why did Varahadev appear and why did he kill Hiranyaksha? What's all this about? So then he veered off and went about the whole thing, about how Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha came to this world, how they were cursed, giant Vijay, and how the boar incarnation came and eventually killed Hiranyaksha. So we went through all that. And now we're coming back to the conversation again where we're talking about, now we've got the Prajapatis. They're the creators of all the living entities in the universe. And one of them is Swayambhuva Manu. And so now, Vidura is asking, so what does Swayambhuva Manu do? And so let's come back to that point when this is on in text 20. So he's wanting to understand what's Manu's responsibility. And so we'll start here about that. And his responsibility is to make sure that the universe is, especially this earthly planet, that the proper rules and regulations are followed by human beings so that they can progress in life. He's the king of the universe in that respect, the original king. The king is responsible for making sure his praja or his dependents develop in spiritual life and that they're actually well taken care of. Okay, not just go and conquer other countries and have a whale of a time. He's got a big responsibility. So we'll start to hear about that as we go through. It'll lead on to his daughter. He had 3 daughters, what do they call them? Prasuti, Akyuti, and Devahuti. So he'll ask about that in this part. What about, what happened to Manu's daughters? Who did they marry? What population did they create? So he'll start talking first about Devahuti. And that's how the pastime of Devahuti and Kardama comes into play. And then from that, Lord Kapila appears from the womb of Devahuti. And then Lord Kapila starts speaking about Bhakti Yoga for the benefit of his mother, right to the end of the chapter nearly. So, it's it's a conversation, and this is how conversations go. It's not like a book. It's, it jumps from one thing to another, and then the question will keep bringing it back. Wait a minute. And so we can start anyway. We've only got a few this week. It looks like, but anyway, that's okay. Where do we start from? It was the top, weren't it, last time? I specifically remember. Because I know Umbada was disappointed. So are you ready, Umbada Prabhu?
Maharaj Prabhu, I'm very happy and I'm ready, but I don't know exactly which text we are reading.
We're on the beginning of chapter 20 now. This is the conversation which starts after the killing of the boar, or the killing of Hiranyaksha. So now we've come back to the conversation between
All right.
Vidura
Okay, I
and
see. So it's start from top.
Start from
Yeah.
yeah. Read 10.
Conversation between which one?
First text.
Should I start from text one?
That's it, yes.
Okay, thank you. Sri Saunaka inquired, O Suta Goswami, after the earth was again situated in its orbit, what did Swayambhuva Manu do to show the path of liberation to persons who were to take birth later on? Sanuka Rishi inquired about
Shaunaka.
Vidura. Saunaka
Shaunaka.
Rishi inquired about Vidura, who was a great devotee and friend of Lord Krishna, and who gave up the company of his elder brother because the latter, along with his sons, played tricks against the desires of the Lord. Vidura was born from the body of Veda Vyasa and was not less than he. Thus he accepted the lotus feet of Krishna wholeheartedly and was attached to his devotees. Vidura was purified of all passion by wandering in sacred places, and at last he reached Hardwar, where he met the great sage who knew the science of spiritual life, and he inquired from him. Shaunaka Rishi therefore asked, what more did Vidura inquire from Maitreya? Shaunaka inquired about the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. There must have been many narrations of the spotless pastimes of the Lord. The hearing of such narrations is exactly like bathing in the water of the Ganges, for it can free one from all sinful reactions. O Suta Goswami, all good fortune to you. Please narrate the activities of the Lord, which are all magnanimous and worth glorifying. What sort of devotee can be satiated by hearing the nectarian pastimes of the Lord? On being asked to speak by the great sages Naimi Saranya, the son of Romaharsana, Suta Goswami, whose mind was absorbed in the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, said, please hear what I shall now speak. Suta Goswami continued, Vidura, the descendant of Bharata, was delighted to hear the story of the Lord, who, having assumed by his own divine potency the form of the boar, had enacted the sport of lifting the earth from the bottom of the ocean and indifferently killing the demon Hiranyaksha. Vidura then spoke to the sages as follows. Vidura said, since you know of matter inconceivable to us, tell me, O holy sage, what did Brahma do to create living beings after evolving the Prajapatis, the progenitors of the living beings? Vidura inquired, how did the Prajapatis, such progenitors of living entities as Marichi and Swayambhuva Manu create according to the instruction of Brahma? And how did they evolve this manifested universe?
Okay. So basically, you know, we have Vidura was actually involved in palace life, which involves, you know, ruling a kingdom, politics. And so when he went on pilgrimage, he saw it as a chance to actually purify himself, because the mind becomes contaminated in that way, to purify his mind, purify himself. So it's important that we also, you know, have time out to go to holy places of pilgrimage, and Prabhupada expects us once a year to go to India, Vrindavan Dham, Mayapur Dham, and get purified so that we, you know, we're fit for service again. Or even if we're, you know, preaching, sometimes we take on the karma of the people we're preaching to, we get affected. You know, it is inquiring avyakta margvit. This means that it's not knowledge which is generally known by people. And that's what we get from going to holy places. We can meet, you know, persons of, you can meet sadhus like Vidura's meeting Maitreya. And that's the most important reason to go into it, to go and inquire. And then we can understand the process of devotional service. Okay, carry on. Who's next? It's Karshan. Oh, it's Mahatma. Oh, sorry, Mahamantra.
Oh, yeah, Haribol, just unmute myself. So,
What's happening here? What's happening?
can you hear me now?
Yeah, but we can't see you so well. You're like merged into a picture.
Oh, yeah, it's when I stop moving, then yeah, there you go. Oh well, I'll try and turn it off when I stop reading.
All right.
Okay, so from text 11. Did they evolve the creation in conjunction with their respective wives? Did they remain independent in their action, or did they all jointly produce it? Maitreya said, when the equilibrium of the combination of the three modes of nature was agitated by the unseen activity of the living entity, by Mahavishnu, and by the force of time, the total material elements were produced.
So, just stop there.
Yeah.
So agitated by the desire of the living entity, our karma and our desire to work in this world. That potential or pradhan is always there. And as soon as we desire it, immediately, you know, it becomes a mahatattva. We create, you know, the whole energy which we can try to enjoy. What's that verse? Krishna Bulya se jiv. I hear Bhoga Vanjikari. Samaya Japati Adari. As soon as the living entity desires sense gratification, immediately it becomes under the jurisdiction of the material energy. Japati Adari is slapped down. So our desire creates this. I was listening to a tape by Prabhupada, and this person was asking a question about, you know, who created this situation that we're living in. He says, you did. We created it. No good pointing a finger. Anyway, carry on, Mahamantra.
As impelled by the destiny of the jiva, the false ego, which is of three kinds, evolved from the Mahatattva, in which the element of Rajas predominates. From the ego, in turn, evolved many groups of 5 principles. Separately unable to produce the material universe, they combined with the help of the energy of the Supreme Lord and were able to produce a shining egg. For over 1,000 years, the shiny egg lay on the waters of the causal ocean in the lifeless state. Then the Lord entered it as Garbhodaya Shakti Vishnu, Garbhodaka Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. From the navel of the personality of Godhead, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu sprouted a lotus flower, effulgent like 1,000 blazing suns. This lotus flower is the reservoir of all conditioned souls, and the first living entity who came out of the lotus flower was the omnipotent Brahma. When that supreme personality of Godhead, who is lying on the Garbhodaka ocean, entered the heart of Brahma, Brahma brought his intelligence to bear, and with the intelligence invoked, he began to create the universe as it was before. First of all, Brahma created from his shadow the coverings of ignorance of the conditioned souls. They are 5 in number and are called Tamishra, Andatamishra, Tamas, Moha, and Maha-Moha. Out of disgust, Brahma threw off the body of ignorance, and taking this opportunity, Yakshas and Rakshasas sprang for possession of the body, which continued to exist in the form of night. Night is the source of hunger and thirst. Overpowered by hunger and thirst, they ran to devour Brahma from all sides and cried, "Spare him not, eat him up." Okay. And a bit of drama there.
Right, that's enough. So,
Enough drama.
pretty far out information, isn't it? You know what I mean? But, what did I say? Oh, that's right. We're going over the same, we've been over this in chapter 12 to some degree. So it's just, before he starts talking about, he's just leading up to, you know, the point, again, is recapping and adding some more information. So we've already been through this. This is about the 3rd time, but anyway, we'll carry on. Things are repeated, they're important. So, okay, who's next? It's Karshna. Put your mic on. Unmute. You're muted. Actually, you're not. You got your volume on. He's gone off now. We better, anyway, we'll let somebody else read while he comes back. Who's next? Jai Krishna, do you want to read from 21?
What chapter?
20.
20.
Chapter 20, yeah? 20, okay, and verse 21 you said?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, Brahma, the head of the demigods, full of anxiety, asked them, "Do not eat me, but protect me. You are born from me and have become my sons. Therefore, you are Yakshas and Rakshasas." He then created the chief demigods, who were shining with the glory of goodness. He dropped before them the effulgent form of daytime, and the demigods sportingly took possession of it. Lord Brahma then gave birth to demons from his buttocks, and they were very fond of sex because they were too lustful. They approached him for copulation. The worshipful Brahma first laughed at their stupidity, but finding the shameless Asuras close upon him, he grew indignant and ran in great haste out of fear. He approached the personality of Godhead, who bestowed all boons and who dispels the agony of his devotees and of those who take shelter of his lotus feet. He manifests his innumerable transcendental forms for the satisfaction of his devotees. Lord Brahma, approaching the Lord, addressed him thus: My Lord, please protect me from these sinful demons who were created by me under your order. They are infuriated by an appetite for sex and have come to attack me. My Lord, you are the only one capable of ending the affliction of the distressed and inflicting agony on those who never resort to your feet. The Lord, who can distinctly see the minds of others, perceived Brahma's distress and said to him, cast off this impure body of yours. Thus commanded by the Lord, Brahma cast off his body. The body given up by Brahma took the form of the evening, twilight, when the day and night meet, at a time which kindles passion. The Asuras, who are passionate by nature, dominated as they are by the element of Rajas, took it for a damsel whose lotus feet resounded with the tinkling of anklets, whose eyes were wide with intoxication, and whose hips were covered by fine cloth, over which shone a girdle. Her breast projected upwards because of their clinging to each other, and they were too, I don't even know what that word is, contiguous to admit any intervening space. She had a shapely nose and beautiful teeth, and lovely smile played on her hips, and she cast a sportful glance at the Asuras. Adorned with dark tresses, she hid herself as it were out of shyness. Upon seeing that girl, the Asuras were infatuated with an appetite for sex. The demons praised her. Oh, what a beauty! What rare self-control! What a budding youth! In the midst of us all, you are passionately longing for her. She is moving about like one absolutely free from passion. Indulgent in various speculations about the evening twilight, which appeared to them endowed with the form of a young woman, the wicked-minded Asuras treated her with respect and fondly spoke to her as follows. Who are you, O pretty girl? Whose wife or daughter are you? And what can be the object of your appearing before us? Why do you tantalize us, unfortunate as we are, with the priceless commodity of your beauty? Whatsoever you may be, O beautiful girl, we are fortunate in being able to see you. While playing with a ball, you have agitated the minds of all onlookers. O beautiful woman, when you strike the bouncing ball against the ground with your hand again and again, your lotus feet do not stay in one place. Oppressed by the weight of your full-grown breasts, your waist becomes fatigued, and your clear vision grows dull. As it were, pray braid your comely hair. The Asuras, clouded in their understanding, took the evening twilight to be a beautiful woman showing herself in the alluring form, and they seized her. With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma then evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself, the host of Gandharvas and Asparas. After that, Brahma gave up the shining and beloved form of moonlight. Vishvashu and other Gandharvas gladly took possession of it. The glorious Brahma next evolved from his sloth the ghosts and fiends, but he closed his eyes, and when he saw them stand naked with their hair scattered, the ghosts and hobgoblins took possession of the body, thrown off in the form of yawning by Brahma.
Okay, you can finish the end of this one.
The creator of the living entities, This is also known as the sleep which causes drooling. The hobgoblins and ghosts attack men who are impure, and their attack is spoken of as insanity. Jai.
So, yeah. Okay, caution approved. Is there anything to speak? Let's see, did I make any notes on that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
In text 24, anyway, carry on. I'll carry on reading from text 22, is 42.
42. Recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of the living entities, evolved from his own visible form. From his navel, the hosts of Sajas and Pitas, The Pitas themselves took possession of the invisible body, the source of their existence. It is through the medium of this invisible body that those well versed in the rituals offer oblations to the Sadyas and Pitas in the form of their departed ancestors on the occasion of Shraddha. Then Lord Brahma, by his ability to be hidden from vision, created the Siddhas and the Vidyaharas and gave them that wonderful form of his known as the Antardana. One day Brahma, the creator of the living entities, beheld his own reflection in the water, and admiring himself, he evolved Kimpurushas as well as Kinnaras out of that reflection. The Kimpurushas and the Kinnaras took possession of their shadowy form left by Brahma. That is why they and their spouses sing his praises by recounting his exploits at every daybreak. O dear Vidura, the hair that dropped from that body transformed into snakes, and even while the body crawled along with its hands and feet contracted, there sprang from it ferocious serpents and nagas with their hoods expanded. One day Brahma, the self-born, the first living creature, felt as if the object of his life had been accomplished. At that time, he evolved from his mind the Manus, who promote the welfare activities of the universe. The self-possessed creator gave them his own human form. On seeing the Manus, those who had been created earlier, the demigods, the Gandharvas, and so on, applauded Brahma, the Lord of the universe.
So this is why I've gone through all this. It's actually leading up to the appearance of Swayambhuva Manu. He came, after many other creations, and now he's talking about Swayambhuva Manu, or the Manu appearing. So that'll lead on to talking about Manu in the next chapter. Carry on.
They prayed, O creator of the universe, we are glad. What you have produced is well done. Since ritualistic acts have now been established soundly in this human form, we shall all share the sacrificial oblations. Having equipped himself with austere penance, adoration, mental concentration, and absorption in devotion, accompanied by dispassion and having controlled his senses, Brahma, the self-born living creature, evolved great sages as his beloved sons. To each of these sons, the unborn creator of the universe gave a part of his own body, which was characterized by deep meditation, mental concentration, natural power, austerity, adoration, and renunciation.
Okay, so that's the end of the chapter. So the creative sequence is animals with 5 joints, then trees and plants, then snakes, then cows and buffaloes, then yakshas, rakshasas, kinnaras, kimpurushas, the kumaras, and the manus, and then human beings. Okay. So we can start. So your wife can start from text 1 of 21, chapter 21.
How many verses, Madam?
Yeah, it's only if you want to read 20.
20 verses.
Yeah.
Text 1.
Well,
Vidura
you can
said.
read, if you feel uncomfortable, just read what you can and then stop.
Okay, I can read. Vidura said, the line of Swayambhuva Manu was most esteemed. O worshipful sage, I beg you, give me an account of this race. whose progeny multiplied through sexual intercourse. The two great sons of Swayambhuva Manu, Priyavrata and Uttanapada, ruled the world, consisting of 7 islands, just according to religious principles. O holy Brahmana, O sinless one, you have spoken of his daughter, known by the name Devahuti, as the wife of the sage Kardama, the lord of created beings. How many offspring did that great yogi beget through the princess, who was endowed with 8-fold perfection in the yoga principles? Oh, pray tell me this, for I'm eager to hear it. O holy sage, tell me how the worshipful Ruchi and Daksha, the son of Brahma, generated children after securing as their wives the other 2 daughters of Swayambhuva Manu. The great sage Maitreya replied, commanded by Lord Brahma to beget children in the worlds, the worshipful Kardama Muni practiced penance on the bank of the river Saraswati for a period of 10,000 years. During that period of penance, the sage Kardama, by worship through devotional service in trance, the personality of Godhead, who is the quick bestower of all blessings upon those who flee to him for protection. Then in the Satya Yuga, the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased, showed himself to that Kardama Muni and displayed his transcendental form, which can be understood only through the Vedas. Kardama Muni saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is free from material contamination, in his eternal form, effulgent like the sun, wearing a garland of white lotuses and water lilies. The Lord was clad in spotless yellow silk, and his lotus face was fringed with slick dark locks of curly hair. Adorned with a crown and earrings, he held his characteristic conch, disc, and mace in his 3 of his hands, and a white lily in the 4th. He glanced about in a happy, smiling mood, whose sight captivates the hearts of all devotees. A golden strip of his chest, the famous Kaustubha gem, suspended from his neck, he stood in the air with his lotus feet placed on the shoulders of Garuda. When Kardama Muni actually realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead in person, he was greatly satisfied because his transcendental desire was fulfilled. He fell on the ground with his head bowed to offer obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord. His heart, naturally full of love of God, with folded hands, satisfied the Lord with prayers. The great sage Kardama said, O Supreme Wonderful Lord, my power of sight is now fulfilled, having attained the greatest perfection of the sight of you, who are the reservoir of all existences. Through many successive births of deep meditation, advanced yogis aspire to see your transcendental form. Your lotus feet are the true vessel to take one across the ocean of mundane science. Only persons deprived of their intelligence by the spell of the deluding energy will worship those feet with a view to attain the trivial and momentary pleasures of the senses, which even persons rotting in hell can attain. However, O my Lord, you are so kind that you bestow mercy even upon them. Therefore, desiring to marry a girl of like disposition, who may prove to be a veritable cow of plenty in my married life, to satisfy my lustful desire, I too have sought the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of everything, for you are like a desire tree. O my Lord, you are the master and leader of all living entities. Under your direction, all conditioned souls, as if bound by rope, are constantly engaged in satisfying their desires. Following them, O embodiment of religion, I also bear oblations for you, who are eternal time. However, persons who have given up stereotyped worldly affairs and beastly followers of these affairs, and who have taken shelter of the umbrella of your lotus feet by drinking the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities in discussions with one another, can be freed from the primary necessities of material body. Your will, which has 18, 17. Your wheel, which has 3 naves, rotates around the axis of the imperishable Brahman. It has 13 spokes, 360 joints, 6 rims, and numberless leaves carved upon it. Though its revolution cuts short the lifespan of the entire creation, this wheel of tremendous velocity cannot touch the lifespan of the devotees of the Lord. My dear Lord, you alone create the universes. O personality of Godhead, desiring to create these universes, you create them, maintain them, and again wind them up by your own energies, which are under the control of your second energy called Yogamaya, just as a spider creates a cobweb by its own energy and again winds it up. My dear Lord, although it is not your desire, you manifest this creation of gross and subtle elements just for our sensual satisfaction. Let your closest mercy be upon us, for you have appeared before us in your eternal form, adorned with a splendid breath of tulasi leaves.
So what number are you?
20.
20. Just read to 22. Two more.
I continuously offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet, of which it is worthy to take shelter, because you shower all benedictions on the insignificant. To give all living entities detachment from fruitive activity by realizing you have expanded these material worlds by your own energy. Maitreya resumed. Sincerely extolled in these words, Lord Vishnu, shining very beautifully on the shoulders of Garuda, replied with words as sweet as nectar. His eyebrows moved gracefully as he looked at the sage with a smile full of affection.
Has anybody got the link for this, Andy? I wonder if you could just send it to me, because I don't know how to get off this. If you can send the link to me, I'll send it to somebody who is a bit late now, though. Might as well just leave it. I think it's 20 to.
What was it? 3. What's the canto?
Okay, so
The link for the meeting.
Oh, you want the link to the meeting?
yeah. So now from 23 onwards, the Lord replies to Kardama.
I'll put it in the chat, Maharaj.
All right,
Should better copy that.
okay. So who's next? I'm seeing it.
Hare Krishna. The Supreme Lord said, having come to know what was in your mind, I have already arranged for that for which you have worshipped me, well through your mental and sensual discipline. The Lord continued, my dear Rishi, O leader of the living entities, for anyone who serves me in devotion by worshipping me, especially persons like you who have given up everything unto me, there is never any question of frustration. The Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, the son of Lord Brahma, who is well known for his righteous acts, has his seat in Brahmavarta and rules over the earth with his 7 oceans.
So it's sometimes different opinions of where Brahmavarta is. Sometimes it explains being in Brahmaloka. So, you know, that's one explanation. Anyway, wherever it is, it doesn't really matter much to us. Okay, carry on.
The day after tomorrow, Brahmana, that celebrated emperor who is expert in religious activities, will come here with his queen, Satarupa, wishing to see you. He has a grown-up daughter whose eyes are black. She is ready for marriage and she has good character and all good qualities. He is also searching for a good husband. My dear sir, her parents will come to see you, who are exactly suitable for her, just to deliver their daughter as your wife. That princess, O holy sage, will be just the type you have been thinking of in your heart for all those long years. She will soon be yours and will serve you to your heart's content. She will bring forth 9 daughters from the seed sown in her by you, and through the daughters you beget, the sages will duly beget children. With your heart cleansed by properly carrying out my command, resigning to me the fruits of all your acts, you will finally attain to me. Showing compassion to all living entities, you will attain self-realization, giving assurance of safety to all. You will perceive your own self as well as all the universes in me and myself in you. O great sage, I find...
Just a minute. He's talking about giving compassion to all his householder. He's the one who generates wealth. And so he's anyway, carry on. Carry on.
O great sage, I shall manifest my own plenary portion through your wife, Devahuti, along with your 9 daughters, and I shall instruct her in the system of philosophy that deals with the ultimate principles or categories. Maitreya went on, thus having spoken to Kardama Muni, the Lord who reveals himself only when the senses are in Krishna consciousness departed from that lake called Bindu Sarovara, which was encircled by the river Saraswati. While the sage stood looking on, the Lord left by the pathway leading to Vaikuntha, a path extolled by all the great liberated souls. The sage stood listening as the hymns forming the basis of the Sama Veda were vibrated by the flapping wings of the Lord's carrier Garuda. Then after the departure of the Lord, the worshipful sage Kardama stayed on the bank of Bindu Sarovara, awaiting the time of which the Lord had spoken. Swayambhavu Bhuva Manu, with his wife, mounted his chariot, which was decorated with golden ornaments, placing his daughter on it with him. He began travelling all over the earth. Over Dur, they reached the hermitage of the sage, who had just completed his vows of austerity on the very day foretold by the Lord.
So, you know,
The holy lake.
wait a minute. So that's the end of another section. So, you know, that's the proper way. That there's different ways of marriage. There's the Gandharva marriage, the Rakshasa marriage. You know, Rakshasa marriage where, you know, the husband kidnaps the wife. And, you know, so many different... But this is the best one where the bride-to-be is brought by the parents. You know, they didn't have to go out on the town to get a husband. Prabhupada was talking about this afternoon, that women have to get dolled up, you know, so that they can attract a man. They go out on the town. And he says this is not the proper way. It should be taken care of without them even having to leave the house. Anyway, it is what it is now. Who's next? Gauridas.
Maharaj, I can't read today. I'm just traveling, so I'm just listening. Sorry.
Okay. So who's next? It's Bharti Mataji.
Hare Krishna. The holy lake Bindu Sarovar, flooded by the waters of the river Saraswati, was resorted to by a host of eminent sages. Its holy water was not only auspicious, but as sweet as nectar. It was called Bindu Sarovar because drops of tears had fallen there from the eyes of the Lord. who was overwhelmed by extreme compassion for the sage who had sought his protection. The shore of the lake was surrounded by clusters of pious trees and creepers, rich in fruits and flowers of all seasons, that afforded shelter to pious animals and birds, which uttered various cries. It was adorned by the beauty of groves of forest trees. The area resounded with the notes of overjoyed birds. Intoxicated bees wandered there. Intoxicated peacocks proudly danced, and merry cuckoos called one another. Lake Bindu Sarovar was adorned by flowering trees such as Kadamba, Champaka, Ashoka, Karanja, Bakula, Asana, Kunda, Mandar, Kutaj, and young mango trees. The air was filled with the pleasing notes of Karandava ducks, plovers, swans, ospreys, waterfowl, cranes, kakravakas, and chakoras. Its shores abounded with deer, boars, porcupines, gavayas, elephants, baboons, lions, monkeys, mongooses, and musk deer. Entering that most sacred spot with his daughter and going near the sage, the first monarch, Swambhu Manu saw the sage sitting in his hermitage, having just propitiated the sacred fire by pouring oblations into it. His body shone most brilliantly, though he had engaged in austere penance for a long time. He was not emaciated, for the Lord had cast his affectionate sidelong glance upon him, and he had also heard the nectar flowing from the moon-like words of the Lord. The sage was tall, his eyes were large, like the petals of a lotus, and he had matted locks on his head. He was clad in rags. Swayambhuva Manu approached and saw him to be somewhat soiled, like an unpolished gem. Seeing that the monarch had come to his hermitage and was bowing before him, the sage greeted him with benediction and received him with due honor. After receiving the sage's attention, the king sat down and was silent. Recalling the instructions of the Lord, Kadamba then spoke to the king as follows, delighting him with his sweet essence. The tour you have undertaken, O Lord, is surely intended to protect the virtuous and kill the demons, since you embody the protecting energy of Sri Hari. When necessary, assume the part of the sun god, the moon god Agni, the god of fire, Indra, the lord of paradise, Vayu, the wind god, Yam, the god of punishment, Dharma, the god of piety, and Varuna, the god presiding over the waters. All obeisances to you, who are none other than Lord Vishnu. If you did not mount your victorious jeweled chariot, whose mere presence threatens culprits, if you did not produce fierce sounds by the twanging of your bow, and if you did not roam about the world like the brilliant sun, leading a huge army whose trampling feet cause the globe of the earth to tremble, then all the moral laws governing the varnas and ashrams created by the Lord himself would be broken by the rogues and rascals. If you gave up all thought of the world's situation, unrighteousness would flourish. For men who hanker only after money would be unopposed. Such miscreants would attack, and the world would perish. In spite of all this, I ask you, O valiant king, the purpose for which you have come here. Whatever it may be, we shall carry it out without reservation.
Okay, so this from 50 to 56, you know, Kadama's a Brahmin, and he's giving the direction that what is Swayambhuva Manu's duty, and that by doing his duty is actually keeping the world in a peaceful situation. If he wasn't actually attentive, then the rogues would actually start to spoil things. And that's what happens when you don't have a powerful leader, then the rogues become prominent. Like in Georgia, where I go, you got a powerful leader there. I think he was backed by the Americans, but he ousted all the mafia, which is not an easy thing. And the mafia they have a code of conduct that if anybody asks them if they're a member of the mafia, they have to actually admit it. And so he got, you know, his detectives and police to go around all the ruffians and cornering them and saying, are you a member of the mafia? And they said yes, and they put them in jail, and they're still in. But anyway, you can't just do that without backing that. I think the American government were backing them. I'm not 100% sure. But it's now mafia-free in Georgia because of that. And so, you know, the King's responsible for that and maintaining the Varnash Ram Dham. When people out of a proper occupation, then society runs nicely. And Prabhupada, he was given a lecture the other day. They call it, what was it now? Something in business. I thought, business? And when Prabhupada started talking, it's our real business is Varnash Ram Dham. And he gave a lecture, you know. So we can actually label things in a way which is attractive to people. And that is real business. He says the business of the Brahmins, the business of the Kshatriyas, and the business of the Vaishyas. We only think business is a business of the Vaishyas, but it's a business of the Shudras as well. And the business is this Varnash Ram Dham. It creates Arya, or what Hitler called Aryan civilization. Aryan really means one who's spiritually advanced. So that's the duty of a king. And so Kardama didn't look emaciated. So, you know, this is the nature. When you're actually jolly, you put weight on. Is that right? I mean, look at me. What happened? But, yeah, I mean, he was actually benedicted by the Supreme Lord, so even though he was fasting, he wasn't actually emaciated. But that happens actually, when you're actually satisfied, you tend to actually put weight on. So that means I've never been satisfied. Anyway, that's another thing. Okay, so we're going on to chapter 22. Who's next? Ambada. So now we're starting on the marriage of Kardama.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, yeah. Text 1. Sri Maitreya said, after describing the greatness of the emperor's manifold qualities and activities, the sage became silent, and the emperor, feeling modesty, addressed him as follows. Manu replied, to expand himself in Vedic knowledge, Lord Brahma, the personified Veda, from his face created you, the Brahmanas, who are full of austerity, knowledge, and mystic power, and are averse to the sense gratification. For the protection of the Brahmanas, the 1,000-legged Supreme Being created us, the Kshatriyas, from his 1,000 arms. Hence, the Brahmanas are said to be his heart, and the Kshatriyas his arms. That is why the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas protect each other, as well as themselves. And the Lord himself, who is both the cause and effect, and is yet immutable, protects them through each other. Now I have resolved all my doubts simply by meeting you, for your Lordship has very kindly and clearly explained the duty of a king who desires to protect his subjects. It is my good fortune that I have been able to see you, for you cannot easily be seen by persons who have not subdued the mind or controlled the senses. I am all the more fortunate to have touched with my head the blessed dust of your feet. I have fortunately been instructed by you, and those great favors have been bestowed upon me. I thank God that I have listened with open ears to your pure words. O great sage, graciously be pleased to listen to the prayer of my humble self, for my mind is troubled by the affection for my daughter. My daughter is the sister of Priyabrata and Uttanapada. She is seeking a suitable husband in terms of age, characteristics, and good qualities. The moment she heard from the sage Narada of your noble character, learning beautiful appearance, youth, and other virtues, she fixed her mind upon you. Therefore, please accept her, O chief of the Brahmanas. For I offer her with faith, and she is in every respect fit to be your wife and take charge of your household duties. To deny an offering that has come of itself is not commendable, even for one absolutely free from all attachment, much less one addicted to sensual pleasure. One who rejects an offering that becomes of its own accord but later begs a boon from a misery thus loses his widespread reputation, and his pride is humbled by the neglectful behavior of others. Swayambhuva Manu continued, O wise man, I heard that you were prepared to marry. Please accept her hand, which is being offered to you by me, since you have not taken a vow of perpetual celibacy. The great sage replied, Certainly I have a desire to marry, and your daughter has not yet married or given her word to anyone. Therefore, our marriage according to the Vedic system can take place. Let your daughter's desire for marriage, which is recognized in the Vedic scriptures, be fulfilled. Who would not accept her hand? She is so beautiful that by her bodily...
Yeah, anyway, I just, in the first part, in text 3 and 4, it talks about the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, the Varna Shram system. And in there, in the purport, it says that the most important thing is if the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas can cooperate. If they can cooperate, it says, then everything else works. Because the Kshatriyas protect the Brahmins, and the Brahmins give the Kshatriyas guidance in how to rule in such a way that, you know, everybody can make spiritual progress. So it's like a perfect combination. And these are the two which really need educating in, you know, the Gurukul. Vaishyas, not necessarily. They would actually sometimes go to Gurukul, but Prabhupada was given a tape this morning. I wasn't specifically listening to this, but he says that with the Vaishyas, all you have to do is, you know, you when he's a young boy, the father sends him to one of his friends who's a businessman or a shopkeeper, and he works for him for nothing. And he sees how he does business. And after some time, when he becomes proficient, the shopkeeper will give him his subsistence so he can support himself. And then eventually he'll start his own business up as a result of watching, you know, after many years of how it's done. And so it's not a difficulty for him. He doesn't have to go to business school. He learns firsthand. This is a natural way. So, you know, it's the Kshatriyas and the Brahmins who really need educating so that they can actually both protect one another and educate like that. Go on, finish. We'll just finish this little section. What number are you on now? Ambada?
I think it's number 17, isn't it?
Yeah, finish the 20 and then we'll stop.
Yes, Maharaj. I have heard that Visvavasu, the great Gandharva, his mind stupefied with infatuation, fell from his aeroplane after seeing your daughter playing with the ball on the roof of the palace. For she was indeed beautiful, with her tinkling ankle bells and her eyes moving to and fro. What wise man would not welcome her? The very ornament of womanhood, the beloved daughter of Swayambhuva Manu and sister of Uttanapada, those who have not worshipped the gracious feet of the goddess of fortune cannot even perceive her, yet she has come of her own accord to seek my hand. Therefore I shall accept this chaste girl as my wife, on the condition that after she bears semen from my body, I shall accept a life of devotional service accepted by the most perfect human beings. That process was described by you, Lord Vishnu. It is free from envy. The highest authority for me is the unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom this wonderful creation emanates, and in whom its sustenance, and dissolution rest. He is the original of all Prajapatis, the personalities meant to produce living entities in this world.
Yeah, so Kardamamuni, he could have just been a brahmachari and all his life and took sannyas, but the order from Lord Brahma to marry and produce children was coming from Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he accepted it. And so, you know, obviously to get married, he'd need to have the impetus. So Krishna must have created that desire within him as well. Otherwise, how could he get married, you know, if he's got no desire? And he says that, you know, to produce offspring, what kind of offspring? Two kinds of offspring we should try to produce. One is a rare Vishnu. Now, that's not easy. You know, that's like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was called a rare Vishnu. So all these great devotees who are born into this world by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord are called a rare Vishnu. But the other one is somebody who's a tendency to spiritual life and can be educated in devotional service. And that's why Prabhupada said, you know, we should, if we're producing children, we should have strong sadhana. Just, you know, chanting like 50 rounds before we have contact. And in that way, you know, the mind is sufficiently purified. Otherwise, you know, we shouldn't have children. Pita nasasyat, vajani nasasyat. One should become a father, husband, spiritual master, worshipful demigod if we can't deliver those who are dependent on us. Okay, so we'll finish that chapter next time. It's 8:05. Okay, any questions or any comments before we wrap up? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for carrying on. It's really good. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. See you next week, everybody.
Thank you, Maharaj. Very well.
Hare Bol.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Maharaj.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna. See you next.
Hare Krishna.
Hare